The movie begins with two sisters named Ginger and Brigitte. We see them riding a horse as they make their way through the forest, where the cold is intense and snow covers the entire area. After a short while, the horse becomes frightened because the snow is too deep, and it refuses to continue, forcing the girls to get off and walk on foot. As they continue, they notice strange symbols hanging from the trees, until they stumble upon a cabin covered in blood, with the surrounding area completely destroyed. An old woman from the local indigenous tribe appears and tells them that their sister passed by this place long ago. She gives each of them a leather necklace with a small calf skull. Since they don't fully understand her language, they accept the gift silently, while she tries to explain that a prophecy concerns them, but they can't grasp what she truly means. After that, the horse starts acting nervously as if sensing danger. Then it runs away. As the girls try to chase it, Brigitte falls into a trap that grabs her by the leg. She screams in pain, and Ginger rushes off to seek help from the old woman because she doesn't know how to release the trap. Brigitte remains alone, terrified and trembling, waiting for her sister to return. Meanwhile, Ginger returns to the cabin only to find it completely empty, as if the old woman vanished. She then hears the sound of a wolf very close by. Panicking, she runs back to save her sister. The wolf reaches Brigitte first and approaches to attack her, when suddenly a young man named Hunter appears. He calls the wolf by its name as if he knows it well, and surprisingly, the wolf obeys and steps back. At that moment, Ginger arrives and hits Hunter on the head with a stick, but he appears strong and clever. He quickly turns the situation around, ties her up with the rope he has, and restrains her. Then he goes to help Brigitte. He releases the trap from her leg, cauterizes the wound slightly to stop the bleeding, and applies some herbs and medicine to treat it. Afterward, he unties Ginger, calls his wolf, and leaves. But he stops and asks the sisters to follow him so they can be safe. He leads them to a large fortress. At the gate, they meet the guard named Claude. The sisters notice a big cross on the doors and traces of blood everywhere, indicating that some wild creature had tried to break into the fortress. A man named Cormac opens the gate for them and helps them enter, and there they discover many graves and members of the indigenous people. A man named James then appears and treats Cormac badly, shouting at him for letting them in without permission. Gilbert intervenes and asks him to calm down until they understand what happened. Brigitte shows him the wound on her leg and explains the trap she fell into. Gilbert sees that they might be a danger and demands that they be expelled, but Dr. Murphy insists on treating the girl first before making any decision. Then another man named Roland arrives, introduces himself, and invites the sisters to have dinner with him that evening and get some rest. Ginger tries to ask Dr. Murphy why so many people outside the fortress have died, but he remains silent and changes the subject. Afterwards, a young man named Finn takes them to a room where they can sleep and explains that it used to belong to Jeffrey, Roland's son, but he died, and now the room is empty. He gives them clean clothes to wear instead of their soaked and dirty ones. When dinner time arrives, Gilbert begins reciting prayers before eating and asks everyone to repeat after him. Murphy then reminds them that their food supplies are running low, and soon they will have nothing left to eat. At that moment, Hunter enters, throws a piece of the wolf he hunted onto the table, and begins eating with them. A conflict breaks out between him and James, and the hostility between them becomes obvious, to the point where Hunter gets angry and stands up to hit him in front of everyone. Gilbert sees that the situation has become too dangerous and insists they must leave the fortress immediately, but Roland refuses and insists on staying until the end. Suddenly, everyone hears a loud sound coming from deep within the forest. Fear and worry appear on their faces. They tell Ginger and Brigitte to return quickly to their room, and Gilbert follows them, warning that a demon is outside and ordering them to lock the door tightly and not leave the room no matter what happens. As soon as Ginger falls asleep, she begins to see hallucinations and disturbing dreams. She wakes up terrified and decides to go out to fetch some water. While walking down the hallway, she hears a sound and follows it to see where it comes from. She finds a boy hiding alone in the darkness, and when he looks at her, she notices that his face is deformed and his appearance is extremely strange. Ginger screams as he attacks her and tries to bite her, The next morning, Bridget wakes up and finds Ginger's neck covered in blood, clearly showing that someone, or something, bit her. She insists that they must leave the place immediately. They grab some swords hanging on the wall to protect themselves and reach the door, trying to remove the wooden planks blocking it. Suddenly, James appears in front of them and hits Ginger, knocking her to the ground, then throws Bridget beside her, trying to stop them from escaping. Bridget grabs the rifle and threatens him with it. Suddenly, the same terrifying sound is heard again at the door, with something trying desperately to get in. James shouts for help, and the men rush in, trying to secure the door and defend the fortress from the strange creature outside. Unfortunately, one of them is bitten, but they finally manage to close the door with difficulty without losing anyone. The sisters seize the opportunity and run quickly inside, where they find Gilbert standing before them. He tells them that everything happening is caused by a demon trying to take control of everything. He then takes them and locks them inside a cabin, closing the door on them, unaware that he is handing them over directly to the monster. Suddenly, they hear the creature approaching, and they begin running inside the cabin as it tries to break the door by any means. The wood cracks and the monster manages to push its head inside. Ginger stands bravely in front of it and starts hitting it until it dies. She then claims that Hunter is the one who killed it and that he saved their lives once again. Hunter then takes them outside the place. Later, Roland speaks with them, and Ginger tells him everything Gilbert did to them. The guard comes running to warn them that the creatures are gathering in front of the gate. So Roland orders the sisters to enter the room and lock it tightly. Hunter looks at Bridget and speaks to her in their original language, then whispers two words, black and red. Bridget then notices that blood is dripping from Ginger's nose. So she quickly takes her to the room while they hear gunshots and the sounds of creatures surrounding the fortress from every direction. The next morning, Ginger wakes up and finds that her sister is gone, so she goes out searching for her. Suddenly, Hunter appears in front of her, looks at the wound on her neck, and applies some medicines he has. Ginger begins seeing new hallucinations, but it turns out in the end that it was all just a dream, and that she is still asleep beside her sister. When she truly wakes up, she notices that her wound is still bleeding and that she is covered in blood, and she insists on going with her sister to Dr. Murphy. On their way, they see the corpse of the creature that was killed the previous night as it is being transported for disposal. Then, at the clinic, they notice strange body parts covered with red stains, and Murphy's face is also smeared with blood. As Murphy notices Finn's shock, he asks him whether he was bitten that night, but Finn denies it and claims he is fine. Murphy pressures him and threatens him to tell the truth. Moments later, it becomes clear that Finn was lying when a strange creature bursts out of his body, proof that he had indeed been bitten. Unfortunately, Murphy is forced to burn him and get rid of him. When the sisters witness what happened, they realize they are in real danger and step back from speaking, refusing to reveal why they came here. Murphy goes outside and finds the corpse of another large creature lying on the ground. He explains to a man named Seamus that any person who is bitten gradually transforms into those creatures, and that this is their final form. The shock hits when they discover that the dead creature is actually Ronald's brother, the man standing near them, who is devastated by what happened. Seamus takes the monster's eye to keep it, and everyone begins thinking about how to deal with the situation. Disagreements arise until Roland steps out and urges them to unite and fight to the end. The sisters return to the room, and Ginger realizes that the young boy who bit her is Roland's son, and that he has begun transforming, which explains why his appearance was frightening. At the same time, Roland brings some food to his son, trying to check on him, believing that he has run away. A little later, Claude speaks with Ginger and tells her that if the creature who bit her dies before the full moon, she will not transform and will return to normal again, and her life will no longer be in danger. Meanwhile, Gilbert and the others try to bury the new corpses and pray over them, while Ginger's condition worsens, and Bridget does everything she can to help her. Suddenly, Ginger sees Jeffrey in his normal form standing before her, trying to speak to her. But as soon as Bridget arrives, he disappears again. Ginger runs after him, trying to catch up, only to discover later that what she saw was just a dream. The residents of the fort later gather to burn the bodies of the creatures they killed in the previous days. Claude places the head of one of them on a wooden stake in front of the gate as a warning to the rest. Brigitte stays awake beside her sister all night, unable to figure out what to do as her condition keeps worsening. Hair begins to grow on Ginger's body, and her wound starts healing and changing shape. Roland enters the kitchen and speaks to Brigitte, telling her that he knows what happened to Ginger, and that she was the one who left the door unlocked, allowing his son to escape. Surprisingly, he does not blame or get angry at her. He simply gives her Ginger's necklace and leaves. That night, Ginger sleeps in the dark and sees the boy appear again, climbing quietly onto her bed. As he approaches her, she screams at him, frightening him, and he runs away to hide. Brigitte enters the room at that moment, and when the boy sees her, he escapes outside. Outside, Seamus hears a loud noise in the night and goes out to check what is happening, only to be attacked by Jeffrey, who throws him to the ground and bites him. After a while, everyone notices that Seamus is missing. They go out to search for him and find him lying dead on the ground, holding a strand of Ginger's hair, leading them all to believe that she killed him. They force their way into the room to take her, and James grabs her violently, threatening and hitting her. A young boy named Milo sees what is happening and runs quickly to alert Roland. Brigitte tries to defend her sister, but James strikes her as well, until Roland enters and orders him to leave immediately. They take Ginger to the clinic for examination, but Murphy uses the opportunity to experiment on her and determine whether she has begun transforming. Roland suddenly bursts in, shoots Murphy, and threatens the others, then orders them to leave her alone. Afterward, Ginger returns to the room and tells them that she must kill Jeffrey to protect herself. She takes a weapon and locks the door on her sister. Ginger goes to see Claude and James holding Milo by force and throwing him outside the gate. She then sees Jeffrey sitting beside his mother's grave, holding her hand. She approaches him to kill him, but as soon as she grabs him, she steps back and feels guilty. Cormac sees her from afar and tries to shoot her, but the bullet misses, allowing her to escape with Jeffrey to a distant place. Hunter enters Brigitte's room and explains that he saw her in his dream and that he must protect her. He offers to take her far away to ensure her safety, but she refuses and tells him she will never abandon her sister. Eventually, James and the others manage to capture Jeffrey. They call Roland to see him one last time, but Roland is forced to kill the boy with his own hands instead of burning and torturing him, and Jeffrey's body falls into the well. Ginger feels guilty because he died because of her, and she becomes saddened. She grabs Brigitte and escapes through a hole in the wall, and they decide to wander through the forest in the hope of finding a safe place. Meanwhile, the men try to retrieve Jeffrey's body from the well. After a while, the sisters encounter Milo again, and he offers to take them to Hunter's cave. Suddenly, creatures appear from the sides and begin chasing them. Milo is killed in a horrific way, causing Brigitte to collapse in shock when she sees his body. She is even more stunned when Ginger tells her that she is the one who did it, which means the curse is still present and she has begun transforming. They keep walking until they reach Hunter's cave, where they find the old woman they met earlier. She tells them it is too late and that she had warned them before. She advises Ginger to kill the boy because he is still alive. Hunter and his wolf arrive, and everyone sits down to eat. The old woman gives Brigitte and Hunter a drink that helps them see what will happen in their dreams. Brigitte wakes up to find herself in the snow, holding a knife in her hand. She looks around and sees the old woman lying dead and covered in blood. She eventually reaches the fort gate and sees a massive werewolf trapped in a snare, unable to move. When she looks closely, she realizes it is her sister Ginger. When Hunter tries to kill Ginger, Brigitte attacks him and stabs him with the knife. In the end, she discovers that she was the one who killed her sister. Brigitte wakes from her dream in shock, finding the old woman dead in the same way she had seen. She learns from Hunter that Ginger killed the old woman and ran away. He also tells her what he saw in his dream and how he died sacrificing himself to protect her. He insists that she must kill Ginger because she is no longer human and could harm anyone just as she did before. Indeed, they both go to the fort. Brigitte believes they are going there to end everything, But the shocking truth is that Hunter takes her inside and hands her over to James. Hours later, Hunter stands outside the door while Brigitte is imprisoned in a locked room. Gilbert enters and offers her forgiveness in exchange for her cooperation, but she refuses, insults him, and tells him she saw everything in her dream and that they are bad people. Gilbert becomes angry, drags her outside, throws her to the ground, and announces to everyone that she is a witch. Ginger approaches the door and knocks, and they open it for her. At the same time, Gilbert was preparing to burn Brigitte alive, when suddenly Hunter was struck by an arrow in his arm while trying to stop them. Cormac and James stood in front of Ginger and started hitting her until she fell to the ground. They then asked Roland to burn them both, but he refused, burning Gilbert instead, and then killed the other with his sword. Ginger tried to escape through the door. James approached her and began to assault her, so she took the opportunity and cut his neck. He fell screaming in pain until he died. She then got up and opened the door, allowing the monsters to enter the fortress easily. Cormac and Claude tried to flee, but there was no escape from death this time. Hunter stood fighting bravely, killing as many monsters as possible while protecting himself, and managed to save Roland at the last moment. Unfortunately, Roland was also injured, but he pulled himself together, freed Brigitte, and tried to help her. Hunter continued fighting the monsters, killing many, while Roland entered and set the entire place on fire. Moments later, another monster attacked Hunter and bit his arm, eventually killing him from his wounds. Roland ascended to the upper floor, took his weapon, and set himself on fire before transforming into a monster like the others. Outside, Brigitte walked among the burning corpses holding a torch, searching for her sister, until she found Hunter sitting on the ground in a terrible state. He handed her a knife and asked her to kill Ginger because he would die and could no longer protect her. Brigitte refused, looked at her sister, then threw the knife and ran to her, hugging her, saying she would stay with her forever. She took her and fled the fortress, closing the door behind her, watching it burn completely. In the final scene, they sat together in the darkness. Ginger began to transform, while Brigitte chose to transform like her and live with her forever rather than lose her.